Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. We should be live. We should be rocking. We should be going. Hello. It's so good to see everybody. Welcome to another live chat. So, what can we talk about today? Well, one of the very big things that's been going on this week, of course, has been Epic Games versus Apple, right? This has been stewing for like the last year, and finally this court case is underway, and boy has it been wild, okay? There has been, even if you don't actually care about who's going to win between Apple or Epic, there has been tons of information that has come out about Xbox, that's come out about Sony, that's come out about Nintendo, that's come out about the entire industry as a whole. It has been a completely crazy thing to see just how much information is coming out about the inner workings of the video game industry in this case. So there's a bunch we can talk about in regards to that. Things that have leaked out about, profit margins, financial information, some backdoor deals that have been done, right? All kinds of crazy stuff with that we can talk about. Nintendo did release their quarterly earnings late last night or this morning, depending on what time zone you're in. And there's a whole bunch about that we can talk about. The Nintendo Switch is now over 84 million units, right? Well on its way to 100 million, right? It's going to pass 100 million this year. So Switch is colossal. Software sales continue to be completely insane for the Switch. We can talk about all that. We can talk about Returnal if you want to, right? I've been playing that game. We can talk about how we feel it's doing, some of the technical issues, or if that's a problem, etc., etc. Okay, everyone, if this is your first time ever at my live chat, basically the way this works, it's 100% driven by you. You drop your comments, you drop your questions down into chat, and I get to as many questions as I possibly can. Now, there's going to be two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method, right? You just type your question, drop it into chat, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. However, if you want to 100% guarantee that I get to your question, the way to do that is going to be the super chat option. You just drop a super chat for whatever amount that you want. I get the super chats immediately when I get the notification. However, don't feel obligated. Don't feel, obliged to donate into chat, because I do get to as many free questions as I possibly can. Okay, two things before we get to your comments and questions. First of all, I want to thank everyone. We're getting close to 3,000 subscribers over here on YouTube. Very cool to see. So thank you, everyone. We're pretty close, not too far away now, right? I'm pretty sure we're less than 100 subs away from 3,000 subscribers. So thank you for that, first of all. We have seen a lift over here in subscribers in the last, I'd say, probably 3 weeks or so. There's been a nice spike, so thank you for that. And then really quick, I'm just going to give you the overview of some of the Nintendo results, and then we're going to dive straight into comments and questions. So first of all, like I mentioned, Switch hardware is at 84.59 million units now, and that was, of course, all of this Nintendo information is going to be as of the end of March, right? This is going to be the end of the last quarter, so it's not going to include anything in April. But anyways, Switch was at 84.59 million units. Software for Switch is now up to 587 million units. So again, hardware's insane, software's insane. Overall, it was a record year for Nintendo, right? It was the best year they've ever had. They are forecasting that this coming year is going to be down, both in terms of hardware, in terms of software, in terms of profits. Basically, they're just assuming that the COVID impact that we saw this last year, it's going to go down. It's not going to be as big, not going to be as impressive in terms of like volume as what we saw last year. So they are forecasting next year to be down from this past year, but overall it was an amazing year for them. Some software updates. First of all, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which was a new release in this quarter, that shipped basically like 5.6 million units. I believe it was 5.59 million off the top of my head. So that's a great result, right? Over 5 million units. That game came out in February, and this quarter was at the end of March. So you're talking like just slightly over a month in sales, and it already did over 5 million shipped. So great result for that. And then your top selling Switch games are going to be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at 35.39 million units, Animal Crossing New Horizons at 32.63 million, Smash Bros. Ultimate at 23.84 million, Zelda Breath of the Wild 22.28 million, Pokemon Sword and Shield 21.1 million. Look at all these 20 million sellers, y'all. That's insane. That is insane. Super Mario Odyssey 20.83 million, Mario Party 14.79 million, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee 13.28 million, Splatoon 2 12.21 million, and finally New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is at 10.44 million. I believe, if I'm remembering right, Nintendo says that Switch now has 36 1+ million selling unit titles. So pretty awesome results there overall for Nintendo. Okay, let's get to your comments and questions. I see a couple super chats right off the bat, so let me hit those super chats. First of all, we've got a 10 from Plastic Hearts Podcast. Thank you so much, Plastic Hearts Podcast, saying, Benji boy, there's a U.S. lawsuit filed against Sony claiming they're restricting digital game purchases to the PlayStation Store and charging super competitive prices. Think the suit will hold. And then Plastic Hearts with a 5 following up on that, saying continued, and thank you, that's 2 super chats. This stems from Sony not allowing retailers the ability to sell digital game cards as of 2 years ago now. So this is really interesting, Plastic Hearts Podcast. I have not dug into like a ton of information on this. So I'm going to be honest, I've been like so busy with so much stuff. Like, so much of my focus this past week has really been on Epic versus Apple. Like, I've just been listening to that like every single day, the court case. So I have not gotten a chance to dive in and look at all of this, you know, all of the super information, my opinion on it. One thing I can say is it is very interesting, and I don't think, look at what we're seeing right now with Apple versus Epic, right? This is about, it's a lawsuit about digital storefronts, essentially, right? At the end of the day, Apple and Epic feels that the charging rates aren't fair, right? They don't like the 70-30 split. They think it should be lower, et cetera, et cetera. I think you're going to see more and more lawsuits come up over the years and, you know, in the coming future around digital storefronts. So it does not surprise me that we're seeing another one here in regards to the PlayStation Store. I think you're going to see more, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, et cetera, as digital storefronts become bigger and bigger. There's going to be more and more cases about consumer rights, about rights for developers, rights for publishers. In this case, like you said, you know, not allowing other stores to resell cards. So is it almost like a monopolistic behavior? So I think you're going to see more and more of this, right? In general, whether it's the video game industry, whether it's the music industry, as we move to digital storefronts, you know, things change compared to what we saw with physical. So I hate to give you just a bit of a shallow answer in regards to this specific case, because like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to super deep dive into it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. And like I said, don't expect, we're seeing a huge lawsuit right now between Epic and Apple. Expect to see more of these kinds of cases in the future. Killian Butler with a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, Killian. Hey, Benji, glad I can catch another stream. I'm glad to see you here, Killian. I was wondering if you could break down all possible outcomes from the Epic/Apple case. Stuff like the implications, Epic relationship with partners, etc. Okay, so let me give you really quick my brief thoughts on what's going on with this case. First of all, I want to make it very clear, I am no law expert, right? At all. I know a pretty good amount of stuff when it comes to like the business and sales side of the industry, but law is something that I am a complete novice and rookie in, right? Someone like Hogue Law, he's going to know way more about like the actual legality of what's happening during this case. But I do have some thoughts on it. So as I've been listening in, and I've been listening every single day to this case throughout the entire thing, listen, to me, it feels like Apple is really heavily winning this case so far. Now, again, I don't know all the legality around it. Of course, there's going to be a judge that could be thinking completely different than what I am. But overall, it sounds to me, through, you know, an Epic and Microsoft have made some decent points during the case at times. But overall, man, it's felt pretty one-sided. I thought Tim Sweeney on the stand did a very poor job. I'm just being honest. I thought Tim Sweeney got basically, demolished when he was on the stand. It didn't feel, I mean, it felt all in favor of Apple. So, it's going to be interesting how this plays out. First of all, I think that there's probably some people that are upset with Epic over this strictly because of how much information has now come out. We got tons of stuff about profit. We got tons of stuff about the inner workings of the industry, and I'm sure a lot of people don't love that. For example, during the case at one point, they had to interject and be like, hey, we had like 10 third parties that contacted the court saying you need to seal documents, you need to not let stuff go public. As we know, the video game industry is extremely secretive, right? To the absolute max, more than any single industry I can even think of in terms of media, right? Of course, there's going to be other industries like, aerospace technology and things like this that are going to be more secretive, military contracts. But I'm talking about just strictly media. Right? When you look at movies, when you look at music, when you look at TV, like video games are so much more secretive than that. It's unbelievable, right? The video game industry literally tries to cover up almost every data point and piece of information that they can. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't love all of this stuff that's going public. So I think you're going to see some people a bit upset with Epic. Now, does that mean that, we're not going to make deals with Epic anymore? No, I would not say that by any means. One of my other main takeaways from this case so far has been it appears that Epic Game Store is a complete failure. Now, the question is, can that improve with time, right? Because keep in mind, anytime you're starting a storefront, it's going to be an investment, right? You're going to take losses early. You're going to hope to eventually gain that money in the future. However, some of the information we're sounding out of here sounds to me like it's literally dead in the water, and I'm not exactly sure what they could possibly do to improve that. So they're forecasting that the Epic Game Store is going to start posting an operating profit, right? So not a total profit, just a yearly operating profit by 2024. Right? So we're still talking years in the future before they even get a yearly operating profit. And to me, that even feels like it might be optimistic, because if you look at some of the data that's come out of this, like out of free games, 7% of those people that have redeemed free games got converted into actually buying a game. That is an extremely low number, and they're spending a ton of money locking in these free games, right? So to me, Epic Game Store, one of the big takeaways from this has been I'm not optimistic about it at all. These are lower numbers than I even expected. So that's been a big revelation to me. I'm sure some third parties that launch games on Epic Game Store are side-eyeing that a little bit, like, whoa, man, that is low. I'm sure you still launch on Epic Game Store because as many platforms you can get to as possible. However, it doesn't look as attractive maybe as it did before if you didn't have the inner workings of the data there. So this is going to be crazy, right? It's going to be crazy to see how this goes. Right now, my feeling, and again, this is just as an outside observer listening to the case, it feels to me like Apple's going to win this. I'll be very surprised if Epic wins. It does not feel to me like they have much of a case at all, really. I think the one win for Microsoft actually is part of this, because Microsoft is involved in this case as well, was when the judge commented about xCloud specifically. The judge, even the judge said, I don't understand why Netflix is able to be on iOS without each movie and TV series basically having an individual app, but you want to do that with Game Pass and games. Like, I don't understand that. That to me was the one moment that felt pretty positive for Microsoft's part of this case. But overall, to me, it feels like Epic's losing. So we'll have to see, but it ain't looking great, And if they do lose this case, to me, the big question is going to be, if they lose, is Epic being ran very well from the top, right? Like, is management there doing the best job? And I'm not talking about the Unreal Engine stuff because it's a huge home run. I'm not talking about Fortnite, but I'm saying like the overall, they've made some very weird choices, right? First of all, it was weird to do this entire battle. Second of all, to keep escalating it further and further. Now you're spending I mean, literally, they have to be spending millions of dollars on this case. Then you have millions, hundreds of millions being spent on the Epic Game Store. They're estimating close to $1 billion in losses by 2024 on the Epic Game Store. Yeah, they're making a lot of money with Fortnite, but are they spending that money smartly, right? That's going to be my big question, especially if they lose this case. It would be like, you guys are making so much money, but are you really spending that money in the most wise way and making the best choices? So we'll have to see. I know it's a long-winded answer, but this has been a pretty crazy case, and that's just my thoughts, okay? We'll move on from that, but thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, super chats are cleared. Let me hit some free questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Rang Tolu. Hi, Benji. How you doing? Thoughts on Nintendo's forecast? 190 million software, 25.5 million hardware. I think Switch will beat both very solidly. Yeah, Ryan, first of all, good to see you. Longtime sales community member here with Ryan Tolu. Great to see you. It's definitely conservative. I think they can beat both, particularly, I would say, if Switch Pro is truly hitting this fiscal year, right? Here's what we've seen. It does appear in these spring months that we're seeing right now, right? So March, April, May potentially, that Switch is going to be down year over year a bit, right? Now, keep in mind, March NPD was still gigantic. It was enormous. They sold, I don't leak out the NPD data, but let's just say it was an enormous number, okay? But it was still a bit down, right? April, I'm also expecting to be a bit down year over year, but still a huge month. May, I'm expecting the same thing. However, I do think they'll be up year over year during the summer, because if you remember last summer, they were severely supply constrained, right? Basically, they sold all their volume that they completely had in the channels during the spring last year, right? Right whenever all those lockdowns hit, right whenever all the COVID stuff really escalated, they sold like everything they had for Switch hardware. Then once they hit summer, they were basically only able to sell what they could produce, right? So even though the summer months were good for Switch, they weren't like crazy like we saw during the spring. So I think spring this year is going to be down year over year a bit, but I think they're going to make up some ground during the summer by being up year over year. And then the big question is Switch Pro truly going to hit by this holiday, right? That's what some of the Bloomberg reports have stated. Now you had other reports coming out saying that it's still going to launch this fiscal year. So if the Pro is this year, I definitely think they can beat it, yeah, because my expectation is that if that's this fiscal year, that also means Breath of the Wild 2's this fiscal year, and I think they can do it. Yep, Ryan. But I would say it very much depends if the Switch Pro or revision truly is this year. But I think they can beat both. Yeah, it's a fairly conservative forecast, I would say. Okay, Red Gaming. Hello there, Benji. Hope you're doing good. I'm doing good. Great to see you. Could it be possible that we will see more unannounced projects at E3 this year that will also release on last-gen consoles? When do you think the support will end for last-gen consoles? / when do you think developers will stop releasing games for them? This is a great question, Red Gaming. And I asked a very similar thing myself on a tweet that I wrote the other day. And basically, to tie into this, because I want to tie my tweet to your point, I had mentioned, I was like, I'm very curious to see how these cross-gen games that got delayed till 2022 sell on last-gen platforms next year. Because to me, if you were launching a game in 2021, it absolutely still made sense to be cross-gen, right? That cross-gen, the last-gen user base is going to be huge. You have an enormous amount of people to sell games to. However, by 2022, I do feel like that those last-gen consoles are really going to dry up for especially new release sales, right? Of course, still sports games are going to sell strong on there. You're going to see sports games be cross-gen for, I would say, multiple years still. Call of Duty is going to still sell great on last-gen platforms, I would assume. However, I think most of your new releases, like the brand new AAA games, are going to primarily sell heavily next gen only by next year. Keep in mind, we're already seeing some games sell better on next gen than they did on last gen right now. For example, Hitman 3 sold better on PlayStation 5 than it sold on PlayStation 4. And keep in mind, think about how much smaller the PS5 install base is than PlayStation 4. We saw something very similar with Spider-Man Miles Morales. And here's why, okay? Those people that are coming out right now during that first year that are heavily buying new consoles, these are your most engaged consumers. These are your people that do go out and drop $60 day one. They're heavily buying games, right? The people that are buying a next-gen platform right now, full price as quickly as they can, those are your most invested consumers. So while I think legacy sales will still be big on PS4 and Xbox One for many years to come, I think a lot of those day one purchasers are going to be converted over the next year to next gen. So by the time you hit 2022, like Hogwarts Legacy is a cross-gen announced game. I believe that the Batman Gotham Knights game's cross-gen, for example. I bet that's going to barely sell hardly anything, honestly, on Xbox One and PS4 next year. I bet those are going to lean so heavily on just PS5 and Xbox Series consoles. So will we see cross-gen games announced at E3? I mean, stuff like, I don't know, specifically E3, but we can just say this year. I think you'll still see maybe a few announced as cross-gen, but not many, right? And we already had some hints of that even before COVID and all this craziness. Like if you remember, Rocksteady's Suicide Squad was announced as a 2022 game, and that was targeted from the beginning, it sounds like next gen only. So I think most publishers think the same way that I do. So games that are targeting 2022 and later, you're going to still see some cross-gen. Like I said, Call of Duty, expect that to be cross-gen definitely this year and probably next year as well. Sports games, stuff like that. But I think you will primarily see next-gen only focus starting in 2022, yeah. Okay, next question. We got Carnage Ghost here. With Microsoft's plans to continue to buy developers/publishers, do you think they will buy so many publishers/developers that they would become a monopoly, like Disney? What do you think Sony's response will be? Meaning, do you think Sony will be more developers/publish will buy? I'm assuming is what you mean. More developers/publishers to compete with Microsoft. Bluepoint and Housemarque is the obvious choice, but could they buy Capcom? Okay, great question here, Carnage Ghost. Couple thoughts. First of all, I've said this before when people have kind of started freaking out about the whole Microsoft's buying people thing. Microsoft would have to purchase so many more studios and publishers to even remotely begin to approach monopoly territory, right? They are nowhere close. I want to make that very clear. I legitimately believe Microsoft could go out and buy 10 more developers, and they still would not be monopolistic. Look at how big the video game industry is, right? We just got profit shares for basically a ton of publishers out of this Epic versus Apple case. Microsoft's not very high up the list, okay? I'm just being honest with you. Now, whenever a court is ruling, if you're a monopoly, they're not going to just look at, hey, you bought 10 devs, now all of a sudden you're a monopoly. They're going to look at the full pie, right? The full share of revenue, of profit, how much money is being made, how much money is being generated. Is it viable that other businesses can compete with you, right? A monopoly is a situation where it's basically considered non-competitive. You completely own the industry. People cannot compete with you. Microsoft is quite literally nowhere near that. They will not be near that, even with multiple more developer purchases, right? You have someone like Tencent, for example, that's making more profit than just about anybody. You got Sony in there. You got Nintendo in there. You got Activision. You got EA. You got Ubisoft, right? On and on and on and on. So they're nowhere close to monopoly. They'll be nowhere close to monopoly, even with more purchases. But how can we spin this off in terms of your second question here? What can Sony do to compete? Because that is a very valid question, right? Because Microsoft does continue to buy more studios. I believe they will buy more studios in the future. I believe they're going to continue to grow their first party. What we can see from the outside, Carnage Ghost, is it looks like Sony's plan is to staff up their own internal studios right now. Like, that's the main focus, right? Getting the teams that they own bigger than they are right now. Getting Insomniac bigger, getting Media Molecule bigger, getting Guerrilla bigger, getting Sony Santa Monica bigger, getting Naughty Dog bigger, right? If you look at their hirings, they are growing their teams. All of their internal teams are growing them, making them bigger. So I think that's like their number one focus. They already have such established first-party teams with such proven track records that before they go out and buy a bunch of people, they really want to get those teams even bigger than they already are. And the main reason for that, in my opinion, is to get more rapid releases out of these studios. Because the one, knock you can make on Sony studios, they've released amazing games, but for most of them, you're getting like 1 or 2 games per generation, right? You wait a long time for each studio, right? You're waiting like 4 years or 5 years potentially between releases. So I think Sony wants a higher output from those teams, right? Maybe instead of getting a game every 4 years, if you have enough staff, maybe we can get a new game out of you every 2 to 3 years, right? By doing like simultaneous development. So I think that's their main focus. And then after that, they will also, look for acquisitions. In terms of Bluepoint and Housemarque, I heard a rumbling. I'll go into this. I'm not a huge rumor guy, but I had heard a rumbling that Sony, and this was a while back I heard this, that Sony had approached Bluepoint before, and that Bluepoint did not want to be acquired at the time. Okay, so that's why, if you remember, there was like a Reset Era thread on this where there was a claim that Sony had purchased Bluepoint, like it was already done, and they were about to announce this. Like, this was at the beginning of the year, right? And as soon as I saw that that thread, I kind of like side-eyed it because I was like, as far as I know, this ain't happening. And if you notice, that was also never announced, right? And that thread, I believe, was closed. Now, again, I want to be clear. I do not consider myself an insider. I'm not Jeff Grubb, okay? Jeff Grubb knows what he's talking about. I don't consider myself that kind of thing. But I do hear rumblings. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I have heard that Sony asked or inquired with Bluepoint, and at the time, Bluepoint didn't want to be acquired. Now, this could be radically different now. But I would agree with you that Bluepoint and Housemarque would be the two that stand out to me for acquisitions because they already have a history with Sony, and I think they would fit well inside Sony's studios. But I don't know. I don't know if they're buying those or not. Okay, I think we had some super chats. We did. 2 super chats here. First one from Timmer72299 with a 5. What is up, Timmer? So great to see you here in chat. Congrats on 3,000 followers, by the way. Hi, Benji. With the PS5 generating over 120 million in revenue, does that number seem low to you? So I did see your tweet about that. Let's do something here really quick. Yes. Yeah, something must be off with that number, right? It just doesn't add up. If you just do the math, right? It's $120 million, and if you divide it by the average cost of the console, right, it just doesn't add up. So something's off there. I don't know the time frame we're talking. But yeah, something would be off by that, right? That's just not near enough revenue. It should be way higher than that. So we know that the PlayStation 5 was already at basically 8 million, very close to 8 million units as of the end of March. That's going to be over 8 million by now. So yeah, something's off with the revenue number for sure. Something's off with that. Javier Nunez, and thank you for the 5 super chat there, Timmer. Javier Nunez with just a nice sticker here and a $4.99 saying, keep it up. Thank you so much, Javier. Thank you for all the support, everyone, all the time. I've been feeling a little off lately, I'll be honest with you. I don't try to delve too much into personal stuff, but you guys all know I've struggled with depression and stuff. I've made that very clear. I have been feeling a little off lately. The big thing I've been feeling is a lack of motivation, right? Which sounds weird. And when I say lack of motivation, it doesn't mean things like this that I love doing. I love doing these chats and stuff. But I've just had this like weird thing where I'm like, I don't know, just like struggling to like super motivate myself. Like, let's go. I think I need a vacation. But I have a vacation coming up in June, so that'll hopefully help. JCat here with the 5 super chat. Thank you so much, JCat. Final Fantasy VII Remake exclusivity expired in April, but Square Enix have said nothing about ports. Yeah, this is interesting. Are Square Enix waiting for the other part releases before it goes multi-platform? JCat, first of all, thanks for being here in chat. Thanks for helping with moderation. This is interesting. My only guess here, JCat, is one of two things. Either A, maybe Sony extended that exclusivity whenever they signed on for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Now, Square Enix themselves and Sony made no public announcement about that, but maybe behind the scenes that deal was done, right? It could be that they signed a contract, not just for Intergrade, but also just anything Final Fantasy VII Remake. We're extending that out. You know, we're going to do a bunch of marketing for you for Intergrade. We're going to pay for marketing rights, all that kind of stuff. So that's one scenario I could envision, is that they just extended the contract. The other theory I have is possibly it's just whatever plans they had for going multi-platform have been delayed due to COVID, right? We know that the COVID pandemic radically affected a large chunk of the industry. Now, you've had certain publishers and developers claim that it did not hurt them. For example, I was just on the Activision earnings call, and the Activision claim during that was that the pandemic actually hasn't hurt them that bad in terms of development timelines. We'll have to see. You know, the rumblings is that this year's Call of Duty is a disaster behind the scenes. I'm assuming some of that has to do with COVID, but their claim at least is that it hasn't had a big impact, but for a lot of people it has. So it could just be JCat. Maybe they have done very little work on any sort of multi-platform stuff because they're trying to catch up on all their other projects. Those are the only two situations I can think of, right? One of those two is that either they extended the contract with Sony secretly, because here's the thing, I'd be shocked that that's not coming to PC soon. I could actually see a scenario where they wait on Xbox a little bit until they get some kind of Game Pass deal worked out, because here's the thing, I'm just being completely honest here with y'all. JRPGs traditionally do not sell that well on Xbox, okay? They just don't. Xbox doesn't move the same kind of JRPG units that somebody like PlayStation does. However, we have seen a lot of PC sales success, you know, for games like Final Fantasy, etc. So I'd be shocked that that's not on PC soon. So something must be going on there, right? Something's got to be going on, I would think. Okay. Super chats are cleared. Back to free questions. Thank you so much for all those super chats, everybody. Batman Forever. With Square Enix's colossal failure with Avengers, do you think it's possible they will not continue their license agreement with Marvel? If so, who else do you think will get the license? Bandai Namco? Marvel is a cash cow right now, and clearly both Marvel and various publishers would want to have a license agreement. So could it be possible that publishers like Ubisoft, THQ Nordic, Devolver take a shot at it? Hello? So first of all, sorry, I said hello because I'm saying How Much Sleep Forward and Batman Forever. Say hi below that. Yes, it looks like Marvel has multiple other projects at other places, right? There are rumblings that NetherRealm is currently making a Marvel fighting game. I hope that is true. I know that Marvel vs. Capcom diehards are going to hate that idea because, you know, NetherRealm games play completely different than Marvel vs. Capcom, right? And I know that a lot of people just want Marvel vs. Capcom 4. But I love NetherRealm's fighting games, so I'm really hoping that that rumor is true. Y'all freak out over that. So, yes, definitely Marvel's going to other places, right? Clearly, we also have, you know, Insomniac making Spider-Man games. I suspect you're going to see more licensed out. In terms of Square Enix in particular, yeah, that is an interesting question, okay? So there's no doubt Avengers underperformed, right? Zero question. I don't think any of us doubt that now. My biggest takeaway from Avengers is I feel like it was a mistake to go for a games as a service approach with that thing from the beginning, okay? You can still make money, you know, getting DLC sales for expansions and things like that with a more focused narrative single player game. Here's the thing, okay? Why do people love Marvel? Okay, let's just talk about this, right? because I'm a huge Marvel fan. Why do people love Marvel? They love Marvel, whether it's the comics, whether it's the MCU movies, for the characters, right? For the story, right? Like the action and everything is great, but why do people get so invested in Marvel? They love to see these characters. They love to see their interactions, right? They love to follow their storylines. And I feel like out of the gate, your core concept for an Avengers game is let's make this multiplayer, loot-based, battle pass type mentality. I just don't think it really lines up with the core tenets of why people love Marvel. I think that's one reason why Spider-Man's so huge. Yes, Spider-Man is a massively popular character just in general, but so are the Avengers, right? The Avengers are also massively popular. People love those Insomniac games because it's such a focused story around, first of all, Peter Parker and now Miles Morales. And yes, the gameplay and everything's amazing as well, but they love experiencing that character, just such a heavy narrative focus. And my advice, and again, I'm just a dude in my room, right? They have very smart people at these businesses, but I would go in with the mentality of any Marvel game. This is about the characters. This is about delivering that experience of really a strong narrative focus and really a lot of single player stuff, right? There should be a Black Panther game. There should be a Doctor Strange game, Captain America. I mean, we could go down the list, Iron Man. There's so much you could do with these properties. And I think the main reason Avengers missed was just the core concept was a flaw. But, that's just my thoughts. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see moving forward. But yes, you will see more Marvel games. Absolutely. Right? No doubt about it. All right. King Lizard. Why do you think Star Wars is getting new games left and right from various publishers, developers? Meanwhile, this ties right in. Meanwhile, Marvel only has 2 publishers interested in the license. Is Star Wars more lucrative than Marvel or what? So King Lizard, it's a great question here. Here's the thing. You know what's interesting? Marvel is such a juggernaut in terms of movies, but we actually haven't seen that same juggernaut sales success in video games as much. It's interesting. Star Wars as a video game overall has been more successful than Marvel. That is a very interesting thought because while right now I feel Marvel in terms of movies and just general mind share of people worldwide is bigger, in video games specifically, if you look at how high the 2 Battlefront games sold, even Battlefront 2, which was a failure, still sold huge amounts of units. If you look at how much Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order sold, I mean a massive amount of units. If you look at how Star Wars Squadrons, which really was under marketed, didn't have very high sales expectations, actually over exceeded what EA was expecting on that game. Whereas Marvel, you've had a lot of misses or games that just haven't been huge sales successes, right? You have Spider-Man, which is colossal, but that's actually been in recent history a bit of an outlier. If you look at Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, that was not a huge seller by any means. In fact, I would categorize that as a failure. If you look at Marvel Ultimate Alliance on Switch, wasn't a huge seller, right? Just a bit over 1 million units. And you could kind of go down the list, right? Even the Marvel vs. Capcom games, they were big sellers, but they weren't huge. But clearly that was before modern Marvel, right? But you get what I'm saying. Like, Star Wars has had way more recent sales success. And with Marvel, it's really just been about Spider-Man. As I just said a minute ago, I think a big part of that is because of the way the properties have been approached. But yeah, that could be part of it. It could be that if you're a publisher and you're just looking at sales numbers, you see Star Wars having a lot of success in sales, and you see Marvel like heavily risky. But I think that's mostly because some Marvel properties have been mishandled, not because actually people just don't care about Marvel outside Spider-Man, right? So I think you'll see more. I think you're going to see more from both Marvel and Star Wars. We just had a 20 super chat. Holy cow. 20 super chat from Kirby O. Louise. Thank you so much, Kirby. That's a big one. Thank you. Thoughts on the rumor of Game Pass heading to Steam? Yeah, I believe it. considering Xbox Bethesda Game Studios buyout and how big a deal modding those games is on PC and how modding Windows Store games is very limited, do you think Microsoft will bring Game Pass to Steam? Yes, I do. Yes, I do believe so. How that's going to work out, I don't know. One thing we know, and we actually even learned more from during this case with Apple versus Epic, is Microsoft wants Game Pass and they want xCloud everywhere they can get it, right? Now, of course, a deal has to be struck, right? First of all, going somewhere else, the platform itself has to want your stuff there. And then secondly, it has to be a deal that makes sense for Microsoft too. So the question of, is Xbox trying to get Game Pass integrated with Steam? I would say the answer to that is 1000% yes. I can't see any scenario they wouldn't be trying to do that, especially because they launch their games on Steam anyways, right? It'd be one thing if there was no Xbox games on Steam, right? So there was just like no interaction there. Then you're kind of like, I mean, maybe they wouldn't pursue something like that. But they already have their games tied to the service. So it basically just has to be a deal that makes sense for Valve and makes sense for Microsoft, right? Because Valve wants to sell Xbox games on Steam, right? I mean, let's just be honest. They get a 30% cut of all of those Xbox sales. And as we've seen, games like Master Chief Collection, Sea of Thieves, these are huge sellers on Steam. So clearly Valve themselves is making a decent chunk of money off these Microsoft games. So they're going to want to still keep getting revenue and sales from even Game Pass. And then Microsoft, of course, isn't going to want an unfair split too. So do I think this is in the works? Yes. Will it be super soon? Is it going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. But it's just something that makes sense for both. So I definitely think at some point you probably are going to see Steam integration with PC Game Pass. I think so. I think it'll happen. I think they will come to some sort of agreement. Awesome. Thank you so much for that super chat, Kirby Louise. I hope that answers your question. All right, back to some free ones. Jack St. Clair. Hi, Benji. What are your thoughts on what the Switch could potentially reach lifetime? I think a top 3 spot is pretty much locked down and wanted to see what you think. Yeah, this will be fun. Let's talk about this really quick. So here's the thing. Switch top 3 is probably pretty much a lock, right? Switch is going to sell, I would say the range right now I peg it at is going to be 130 to 150 mil. Now, 150 mil would definitely be the high end, right? It would need to sell essentially, how many, I mean, close to 70 more million units, right? I mean, because it's at 85. Yeah, so you're talking a huge amount, right? So just to get to 150, it would still need a massive amount of sales. However, they are projecting it to still sell a huge amount, and I think it will still sell a huge amount for years to come. All right, we're not getting the next Switch for quite a while, especially if the rumblings are true that Switch Pro is this year. Don't expect to see Switch 2 or whatever it's called for, I would say, at least 3 more years, if that really is hitting this year. So they still have years that they can sell the Switch. Keep in mind, the regular Switch has still had 0 price cut. It's still $299. And one thing we found out about from Apple versus Epic is that Nintendo's making quite a bit of money off hardware sales. So there is room there to drop price if they felt like they had to, right? And still not even take a loss. They could drop the price down and just be at a break-even point instead of posting a profit off of the hardware sales. So yeah, I mean, there's still a ton of life in this thing. 130 to me seems a lock at minimum, right? I can't see them selling less than 130 million, right? So that to me seems like the floor. And then anything over that's going to really depend on very late legs, right? How is it going to sell in those final 1 to 2 years to get up to that 150 million plus, right? Because that is a huge number. And as high as Switch sales are, they still have a long way to go. But at the very minimum, everything goes wrong, I would say at least 130 mil. I cannot see it doing less than that. And potentially quite a bit higher. I think we just had a super chat drop. Let me hit that really quick. Benji with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much. Hi, Benji. Nintendo numbers are through the roof and R&D at an all-time high. Nintendo mentioned prepping for next gen. Is this Switch Pro or Switch 2? I'm assuming, because yes, R&D is high, right? In fact, R&D was so high that investors actually asked about it. Like they specifically said, why is R&D so high? My hunch is this is actually more tied to the Switch Pro than the Switch 2, but I could be wrong about this because here's the thing. The rumblings is that Switch Pro is quite literally going to have better visuals, right? You're going to see a jump in visual quality. It's going to do things like be able to run at 4K. Now, again, it doesn't sound like this is native 4K, but it might be some sort of AI upscaling, but also probably also the actual assets of the games are going to look better, right? This is the rumblings. This is not insider information from me. This is from all the reports online. So first of all, you're going to have R&D just strictly from an increase in terms of the hardware itself. But then also, if you are doing better assets and you're doing, better technology inside your games, the actual software itself R&D is going to go up, right? Just like we see with AAA games now on Xbox and PlayStation, the price of those games just keeps escalating, right? As technology goes up, you need more and more people to make these games. You need better and better, technology within them. It gets more and more expensive. Timelines to make these games extend. So I don't think it's heavy Switch 2 yet. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Switch 2 is in some sort of prototyping phase. Like I said, I think probably about 3 years out from now is when you'll see Switch 2. But I think that's far enough out that they're not spending a ton of R&D on Switch 2. It's probably Switch Pro and getting their games up and running for Switch Pro would be my guess. That would be my guess. All right. Miles Morales. Could it be possible that we might see the release of Spider-Man 2 next year alongside God of War Ragnarok? Or do you think Sony will release only one AAA title each year? No, Spider-Man definitely might be next year. I could see Spider-Man next year. So that might sound quick considering Miles Morales came out, at the end of 2020. But actually the Miles Morales team wasn't everyone that was working on the original Spider-Man, right? Basically, they kind of split in two after that. Not completely right. I'm not saying literally they split into two teams. But some of the people that were working on Spider-Man went to work on Miles Morales. In fact, I think that started development in pre-production even before Spidey 1 finished, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I think so. But also a huge chunk of that core Spider-Man team went straight on to starting development of Spider-Man 2. So that's clearly going to be pretty far underway of development. Here's the thing, Miles, my guess would be the original target for Spider-Man 2 was going to be 2022. However, the question, just like with everything, is how does COVID impact it, right? So whether that got delayed further out because of COVID, who knows? But my guess, just looking at the timeline, 2022 was probably the original target year for Spider-Man 2. I would think so, yeah. I would definitely think so. Sounds PP7. What do you make of Sony's recent reveal of an official Game Boost logo? And what do you see them, the long-term use being for it? Well, my hunch is they're seeing all of the positive reception that Microsoft's getting, particularly around backwards compatibility, around all of these FPS boosts that they're doing on games. Microsoft has just really been doing an excellent job in that regard. And my hunch, Sony is a competitor. Sony is a forward-thinking company. I don't think that they want Microsoft to just get all of the spotlight around that. So I'm sure that they themselves are working on boosting more back compat games. That would be my guess. My guess, sounds PP7, is it specifically is something to do with last generation games to get those frame rates higher, to get maybe resolution improved, things like that, without maybe, and I don't know this, but maybe without like huge extensive patches, kind of like what Microsoft does, right? It's almost like a behind the scenes sort of thing where devs themselves don't have to just from the ground up work super hard to get these games running better. Maybe Sony themselves is putting some resources into trying to do most of the work for the developers, just like Microsoft does. I mean, that's just a guess, but it would make sense. This so far, Microsoft seems to have had a lot of success with that. So I'm sure Sony's seeing that and also want to do the same. Chris Jenkins. Seems like anything Nintendo makes sells gangbusters, right? I mean, literally. Well, let's say everything but Labo. R.I.P. Labo. But yeah, pretty much everything else, right? Perfect time for Metroid Trilogy. I agree. They already have emulator down due to Sunshine Port. Who says no? It has to be coming, right? That would be a huge missed opportunity if they don't. Huge. And I would say it's a huge missed opportunity for two reasons. First of all, let's just be realistic. Those original Metroid Trilogy games, Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3, they weren't huge sellers. Let's just be clear here. They weren't flops, but they weren't huge sellers. So that means a ton of people that own Switches right now never played those original Metroid games, right? And when I say original, you know what I mean. The Metroid Prime series, not old school, NES and SNES Metroid. The Metroid Prime series. I would say the vast bulk of Switch owners have never played even a single one of those games. And as we've seen from other re-releases, right? Like, New Super Mario Bros. U, Pikmin, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I mean, I could go on down the list. They find a new life on the Switch. Now, would I expect Metroid Trilogy to sell the kind of numbers that, a Mario re-release does? No, right? Metroid's just not as big of an IP. But I think a lot of people would. And the other thing is it's a very easy way to generate hype for Metroid Prime 4, right? So get people hyped up, get them ready for the big new AAA Metroid, get a ton of people that never played the series before. It makes perfect sense. It has to be happening. And if it's not, it's a huge missed opportunity. Huge missed opportunity. Eric here. This is interesting. I haven't seen this. It just leaked that Sony is working on releasing a 6nm APU for the PS5. Makes sense. I believe we will get mid-gen refreshes on these consoles. I really do. A lot of people didn't think we would, right? Because a lot of people said, oh, the only reason we got mid-gen refreshes last gen was to get 4K support as 4K TVs came out. There's no reason to do it this time. The CPUs are so good. The GPU, right? It's all so good. Here's the thing. You were talking about that in 2020 or 2021 terms. Whenever you go 3 to 4 years out, I'm just going to be honest with you, this hardware's not going to look as impressive as it does right now. It's just not. Now, I do think the base consoles this time are much better overall packages than the base consoles were last time. In their same time frame, I believe these were better put together machines. All that said, you fast forward 3 or 4 years, and again, they're just not going to look that impressive. We've seen that PS4 Pro and One X were successes for Microsoft and Sony. I don't know why you would abandon that model going forward. Here's the thing. I know it sounds silly right now, but 8K TVs are coming out. They are a thing that's beginning to hit the market. As we've seen, these consoles do decent with ray tracing, but it's not mind-blowing. So you could also offer more advanced ray tracing support in a mid-gen refresh. I think we will get them, yes. I think we will. I don't think it's going to be super soon. I don't expect to see these machines for 3 years, but I think so, yeah. You're going to see another Xbox and another PlayStation this generation. I really think so. Misanthropist asks, how this guy don't have more subscribers? Yeah, my YouTube grows way slower than my Twitter, right? On Twitter, I have over 22,000 followers now, which is crazy to me. It's incredible. Thank you, everyone. Anyone that's here on my YouTube that also follows me on Twitter, thank you so much. The support on there is insane. But yeah, clearly my Twitter dwarfs, like just completely blows away my YouTube account. So I think there's a couple reasons for that, though. First of all, I only do one stream a week, right? One thing that at least I have seen from other creators is if you want to have success on YouTube, you have to pump out a lot of content. And I just don't, okay? I do one stream a week. So that's going to limit my growth somewhat if you're only doing one time a week. And second of all, I do long videos, right? I don't do short videos. So it also makes it harder to share, right? Like if you just have like a 10 or 15 minute video, it's a lot more palpable or palatable to a larger audience, right? But I don't do that, and I don't plan to do that moving forward. So when you sit down to watch a Benji-Sales video, you're going to watch like an hour and a half long vid, right? You're like committing to it. So I think those are all factors that have limited my YouTube growth. But here's the thing. I love what I do on YouTube. So, I mean, I was doing this with a small amount of subscribers, right? Whenever I had like just a couple hundred. So whether I have 3,000 subscribers or whether I one day hopefully get to 50,000 subscribers, I'm still going to keep doing it and I'm going to still keep loving doing it. So we're going to do it every single week. But yeah, Misanthropist, I don't expect my channel to ever be big, right? I think it's going to be a slow growth, how we see right now over time. What I can say is that the support lately has been very, very good. So my last, I think 3 out of my last 4 live chats have had over 1,000 views, which for me is good, right? My videos in general kind of run the gamut anywhere between, 600 to 800 views up to 1.5, 1.6 thousand views. But the last 3 out of 4 have all been over 1,000. So for me, that's good. Okay. So, and I appreciate it. The support lately has been definitely stronger than it was for a little bit. Dangerman1337 saying, where is the Battlefield reveal? Yeah, that was supposed to be today, right? Wasn't that the rumor? I thought the rumor was the trailer drops today, and there has been nothing. No teases from them, nothing. That is surprising to me. Where is the Battlefield trailer? Because the rumors are that game looks insane. Okay, that is the rumblings. The rumblings is that this year's Battlefield is super impressive. So yeah, I am very excited. I'll tell you what, as somebody that felt kind of burned out of Battlefield after Battlefield 1, and in fact, I completely skipped Battlefield 5, I was like just kind of out on that franchise for a bit, but I am ready for this year's Battlefield. I loved Battlefield 3. I loved Battlefield 4. I am hyped. Yeah, where is that trailer? Because people are saying that game looks nuts, and I'm ready for another one. RRD here with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, RRD, with a 2 saying Xbox's true power seems to be really impressing now. Well, one thing we have seen, RRD, and devs themselves have even come out and said this, is that Xbox, when they completely reworked their tools, so one thing Sony did this generation was that the tools to develop on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 are extremely similar, right? Of course, there's going to be updates, there's going to be some changes, some things like that, but like the core way of developing games, very similar. Whereas Microsoft did a whole new tool set for the Series X and Series S. And that is taking some time for A, the tools to mature, and then also B, devs to get familiar with the new way of doing it. You had people like Remedy Entertainment themselves, like Remedy flat out said that was part of the issue, was that, people had to get a feel for the new Microsoft and Xbox tools. So it does, I agree with you, RD, it does feel like that stuff's probably going in the right direction right now. You're seeing some of the early kind of weird hiccups you saw in Series X with a few cases look like they're getting more ironed out. So yeah, I think it is maturing, yeah, and coming into its own. I would agree with that for sure. For sure. That was really, from what it sounds like from devs, a bit of an issue. It wasn't necessarily that Microsoft was doing things like super bad with the new tools, just that it was radically different. So it's going to take a bit to get a hold of that, right? But yeah, things are looking good. Eric here saying, Returnal. I cannot for the life of me get past the first biome. Yeah, let me talk about Returnal for just a second. I have a love-hate relationship with this game. So right now I'm on biome 4. First of all, okay, this game, when I first started it, I kind of got frustrated in terms of the difficulty, but now that's clicked for me. I adore so much about this game. It is unreal, okay? Let me tell you, the core gameplay is phenomenal. You know me, anyone that watches me regularly, I love horror, I love sci-fi. They have nailed that horror, sci-fi, alien feel. I mean, it's money. You guys know I love like mysterious, weird stories. Alan Wake, Control. It totally has a plot that feels in that style. So all of these things, I mean, I literally adore it. However, I have been unlucky enough that I have been hitting technical issues on this game. And just like anything with bugs and technical issues, it's going to affect everybody differently, right? Some people are going to go through a run of a game and have hit hardly any bugs. Some people are going to hit a bunch. I've been unlucky enough that while I wouldn't say my run has like been totally hit with like plagued with bugs, I have just had some like really frustrating ones, okay? Like I lost a run that was a pretty dang long one because I just randomly got stuck into a wall. I like did my boost dash to get away from an enemy and I hit a wall and literally somehow could not move. Like I was just stuck. There was nothing I could do but to restart my loop. There was another scenario just last night where I was playing my longest run yet. And there's rooms there where when you get into the room, you can't leave it. It locks down and you can't leave the room until you kill all enemies. Well, somehow one of the enemies spawned outside of it. Like you could actually see the enemy on my mini map. And it was outside of the box I was in, like just a red triangle over here. And I mean, I literally had to restart my run. There was just nothing I could do. I'm just trapped in this room with nowhere to go. So I have been unlucky enough to hit some, frustrating technical issues. But I'm trying to be understanding with Housemarque because this was by far their most ambitious game ever. Their first time tackling AAA. So I'm trying to be understandable. Overall, I would say I love this game. I think Returnal probably is going to end up in my top 10 at the end of the year. I think so. But it's hard. Eric, the only advice I can give you as someone that got stuck on the second biome, but I kind of smashed the third, surprisingly. Because third is where a lot of people said that the difficulty jump is, and I annihilated the third biome. I think I only did 2 runs in it. Like, yeah, I did. I only ran it twice. I beat it on my second attempt. But the second one I got super hard on. Stuck. Eric, here's my only advice for anyone that's playing Returnal that's stuck. The most important things that I have found is make sure you fully run the biomes before progressing. So you're stuck on biome 1, so this won't help you. But for people that are on biome 2 or biome 3, don't just rush to whatever biome you're on because those upgrades make such a difference. Fully run and clear each biome. I know it makes your run a lot longer, but you're going to just have less death attempts if you go into a boss or a new biome fully decked out. The other thing is get those astronaut figures because those will give you a revive. Definitely, if you ever see an astronaut figure at, like the little purchase places, buy it, okay? It's invaluable. So buy one of those and then try to get your health bar up as much as possible. I know that sounds basic and easy, but like do your absolute best to not take hits and get that life bar increased as much as you can. Because if you have a high enough life bar, this is the way I was able to smash biome 2. I mean, dude, that boss literally couldn't kill me. Like, I took a ton of hits. I didn't play the biome 3. I didn't play the biome 3 boss very smartly. Like, I wasn't like an expert dodger, but my health bar was like, dude, it was huge. So I was just tanking hits. I was just like, it's fine. You're not going to kill me. So those are some things that I would suggest. All right, we have been going for 1 hour and 2 minutes. I'm going to still keep going for a little bit, but I might have to get slightly selective about questions, but we will see. We will see. I'm going to go for like 15 to 30, somewhere in that range, 15 or 30 minutes. Fisher's Net. Hey, how excited are you for E3 season, and what would you think of a Kojima walkout? Okay, the Xbox stage. He follows Phil on Twitter, and I think this was the case when Death Stranding released. So, I commented on this before. I did hear the rumor, even before the story came out from Grub and GamesBeat, that Kojima was talking to Xbox. I said this on a previous thing. I didn't hear it super far before that, but I heard it, I would say, like a week or two before the GamesBeat article came out. But like always, y'all, I do not consider myself an insider. I do zero research into inside stuff. I just hear it sometimes, right? People hit me in the DMs or whatever and tell me some stuff sometimes. So Can I tell you that I know for a fact, dude, trust me, Kojima is working with Microsoft? No. I heard this rumor too, though. So that means it's a widespread rumor, which usually, and not always, usually if a rumor is like floating all over the place, that tends to mean there's some truth behind it. So for now, I am believing that Kojima is at least in talks with Xbox for his next game. However, I just don't know if that deal will be done in time for E3. If it is, I will say yes, because it's an opportunity you don't miss, right? Whether you love Death Stranding or hate Death Stranding, whether you love Metal Gear Solid or hate Metal Gear Solid, I mean, Kojima's name is like a big thing in the video game industry. So I would say if that's a done deal, I say yes. I don't know that you actually even show the game yet, right? Because this is probably very early pre-production stuff. So it might actually even be a mistake to be like, oh, here's the early concept. We'll see it in 4 years, right? Sometimes you don't want to announce a game that early, but at the very least, if you can be like, hey, we locked it up. Kojima's next game is partnered with Xbox. We're publishing his next game. Let him just say a few words like, hey, this is the concept, right? Whether it's a horror game, whether it's whatever, like I'm working on this game with Xbox Studios. I think you do that, yeah, if you can lock it down. But A, first of all, who knows if this rumor is actually true? And B, if it is true, it might not be a done deal yet, right? It might be in talks. So it just depends. But if they can lock it up, I would say yes. At least announce that Kojima's with Xbox on his next project. Ubi or Obi, something like that, asking, I read that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold like 10 million copies last fiscal year. 9 will be a launch title for their next platform, right? Yeah, Mario Kart 9 is an interesting question, right? There's been a lot of debate about that. Do they launch 9 on the Switch? Do they just keep riding Deluxe's sales out because it's selling utterly unbelievable? Literally every single year. I believe Dark Detective tweeted out, Dark Detective's a great follow on Twitter that has to do with sales and stuff too. I consider him a friend. He tweeted out, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe just this past fiscal year outsold the lifetime total of what Mario Kart 8 sold on Wii U. I mean, that shows you how crazy it is, right? That even 3 years after launch, that game is still selling more yearly than the total lifetime it did on Wii U. So that's an interesting one. Did they wait on 9 until next Switch, or do they release it on this Switch? I still think you'll get Mario Kart 9 on this Switch. I think so, because 8 Deluxe is still a re-release. Switch has not had its own fully developed, only specifically for Switch Mario Kart. So I think they will. I think you'll get Mario Kart 9 on the current Switch and Switch Pro, but I could be totally wrong. Felix Yao saying, I just finished replaying The Witcher 3. Shame that my last impression of CD Projekt Red was that they're in trouble. Data, leaks, etc. Any thoughts on CD Projekt Red going forward? So, first of all, congrats on finishing a replay of Witcher 3. One of my favorite games of all time. I used to be a massive CD Projekt Red fanboy, right? I don't consider my fanboy, consider me like a fanboy of many things. Witcher and CD Projekt is one of them, right? I adored Witcher 2. I adored Witcher 3. And then I completely, look at this. Let me show you something. All right. I own Cyberpunk 2077. That is still wrapped. I bought this launch day. I have not opened it. So that shows you kind of how I feel about the Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red situation, okay? I have not even opened this game. So, and you're talking to someone that loved that company. I'm waiting, right? I'm waiting for that game to be in a super playable good state on Xbox Series X. So, my thoughts for them in the future. Listen, Cyberpunk was a massive blunder. There's just like no other way to put it, right? There's like no other way to put it. It was a massive, massive, massive blunder. The way that game released, their handling of it afterwards in terms of some of the things that they've said, etc. However, I do believe that CD Projekt Red themselves is a very talented company. And I believe that because of Witcher 2, because of Witcher 3. But the fact is, they're going to have to earn back a lot of what they lost with Cyberpunk in terms of the community. So I'm not like some people, right? A lot of people, there's an issue and they instantly hate a company. I'm never buying anything from you again, etc., etc. I'm not that way with CD Projekt, okay? I'm going to wait to see how they can recover. They have multiple games in development now. One of those games is a Witcher game. And I'm excited for it, okay? So, but here's the thing. I would say the main issue for CD Projekt Red is they've lost that just like instant faith with people, right? Like after Witcher 2 and particularly after Witcher 3, that company was in a state where people just like blindly trusted them, right? They really felt, hey, this is a pro-consumer company because of some of the things they've done with Witcher and GOG. Like, you know, you're going to deliver nothing but quality. We have instant faith. That is gone. Like, it's gone. They're going to have to earn that trust back. So do I believe that they're capable of delivering good, high-quality games in the future? Yes, I believe they are capable of it. But I'm not going to blindly believe it, right? They're going to have to prove it with their next projects. I don't think they're doomed by any means. Some people you see, oh, they're doomed. Trust me, if Witcher 4 comes out and it's insane quality, like incredible, they deliver, people's minds are going to change back. I'm not going to say they're going to be completely back to where they were before Cyberpunk, but they'll be much better. But here's the thing. Last comment on this. Their next game has to be incredible, okay? And incredibly polished. They cannot release another Cyberpunk. It just cannot happen. If they have a Cyberpunk and their next game also radically does not live up to expectations, then I will be saying, yo, that's not like a one case scenario. They've now done this multiple times. And that would be a scenario where I'm very worried about their future. Right now, let's see. Their next game, though, has to be a home run. It has to be. Jose Contreras here. Housemarque Games really doesn't make profit. They make great games, but why do they limit their games to Sony? I believe they will sell more of their old games on a system like Switch. Well, in the case of Returnal, that game, they stuck with Sony because straight up Sony funded it. Like, this is all Sony. Housemarque, as far as I understand, paid $0 to make Returnal. So it's pretty dang hard to say no to that, especially whenever it's like you mentioned, their recent games have not been sales successes. Like that's not me saying that. Housemarque themselves flat out said that their recent games have not been able to make them money. They were in real danger, okay? But then when you have someone like Sony come in and not only fund your next game, but fund your biggest game that you've ever made, not only does Sony come up to you and be like, hey, we'll let you make another smaller, arcadey style game for us. But if they come in and they're like, yo, staff up, make the most ambitious thing you've ever made, and we're going to pay for it. Yeah, you take that deal every time. So, whether that will be the case moving forward, I don't know. But in the case of Returnal, there was almost no other choice, right? If you have a major publisher like Sony going to back your game, you do it. Felix Yao says, I'm a lawyer. Where's Twitter Spaces when you need it? Nice. Nice, Felix. Windows Central Gaming's in the house. Whoop! What is up, Windows Central? Anyone that missed it, I was on the Xbox Chatter Days podcast, and I had a blast over there with Miles. So, that was last Saturday. Check out Windows Central's Gaming if you have not yet. I was on Xbox Chatter Days. I had so much fun. Thank you, Windows Central, for having me on. I had a blast. I would love to be on again someday. So that's cool to see Windows Central here. And then we have Jez C. I don't know if this is Jez Corden. I don't know if I'm saying your last name right. I hope so. But if it is Jez, what is up, Jez? Good to see you here, man. Saying Benji also plays guitar. Every Xbox content creator plays guitar. Yes, I play metal primarily. Okay, I primarily play metal music on guitar. I can of course play just like most guitarists. I can play most genres, but my focus is metal and particularly like brutal metal. Right? Not even like a lot of metal like that you hear on like the radio and stuff. I'm playing in like drop B, drop C too, and sometimes even lower. So yeah, that's kind of my jam, right? Deathcore, particularly, I would say. I really love playing deathcore music and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm a metal guitarist primarily. And gent, right? Gotta get genty boy in here. If you don't play guitar, listen to metal music, none of this means anything to you. You're like, gent, what is gent? But yes, breakdowns, that kind of stuff. And it's good to see you, Jez. Adam's rankings. When do you expect the Switch to cross 100 million? I say late this year or early next year. This year, Adam, yes. I think Switch passes 100 million this year. Yep, I think so. Late this year, though, yeah. It'll be at the end of the year, but it should be. Put it this way, definitely in the fiscal year, right? They only need 15 million units. They're at 85 million, essentially. It's 84.5 or 84.6, whatever. Essentially, they're 85 million. They only need 15 million units. Yeah, that'll be either the end of this year or very early next year. But I think this year, this calendar year, I think they hit that. Yep, very end of the year, right at the end of the holidays, they should hit 100 million. And Mac Roberts saying that Nintendo's forecasting 25 million Switches is pretty aggressive for them. They only forecasted 19 million for last year. They always lowball. That tells me they're confident for this year. Yeah, this year is they're feeling confident. Like I said, I think the Pro is this fiscal year and Breath of the Wild 2 as well, I believe. Yep, I think so. I think this fiscal year you will have both. I think the goal is calendar. Honestly, because that was the reports that came out of Bloomberg, is they wanted the Pro out by the end of this year in time for the holidays. However, just like we've said a million times, let's see what happens with the COVID impact. But at the very least, I think you definitely get Switch Pro and you definitely get Breath of the Wild 2 this fiscal year. So by the end of March 2022, I do think you see those. Yeah. We just had a super chat drop. Let me hit that super chat. Renato SZVR. Have you heard of Ginger? If not, you totally should. Yes, I have. And I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that name right. But yes. Yep. Some of the stuff that I've been listening to lately is Spirit Box. I love Spirit Box. Big fan. If you haven't listened to Spirit Box, their new song is so good. Bit of a unique thing in the metal industry in that, and they're not the only band with this, but their front person, right, the lead singer / screamer of the band is a woman, and she kills it. Okay, her screams are brutal. So yeah, Spirit Box is one that I've been listening to. I'm a big fan of Signs of the Swarm, has some good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, right? I don't want to bore people that don't listen to metal music, but yeah, I listen to a ton, right? Tons and tons of them. Tons. Within Destruction, I'm a big fan of Yokai, that album they released, I think, last year. Vegeta06 says, Benji lying. I don't know what I'm lying about, Vegeta, but I'm sorry. I broke your heart with my dirty lies. Okay. Running out of time. Gonna go 10 minutes. 10 minutes and we done. So let me rapid fire some. Rapid fire. This is a relevant one, so I need to answer this. Costas, hi Benji, do you think Returnal has sold well so far? UK physical sales for the first 2 days seem to be 8.6 thousand using the original Pokemon Snap for reference. So the only hard data point we have right now is UK physical sales, and I will say those numbers were very low. Okay, now it is a very niche genre, hard to know exactly what Sony's expectations are, but that particular data point is low. However, the one thing I want to stress, like I always do whenever UK sales charts come up, keep in mind this is physical, doesn't include digital. We don't know how much this game is selling digitally, and it is also only one market. So we need to see places like the US, we need to see things like, the rest of Europe, we need to see, particularly in this case, I would say digital. I think this, I don't even know if this is coming out in Japan, but I would expect it to sell almost nothing in Japan. So it's hard to say, Costas. This game, to me, it's really going to be about how it sells in the US, actually. I think that's going to be a pretty big deal for it. So, hard to say. It is so hard to say how Returnal has sold. I don't have any relevant viewpoint for you there, other than that, yes, I would agree that the UK physical sales numbers are low. They are low, yes. Biothin, Resident Evil Village sales prediction after reviews. So reviews are overall very positive, slightly lower than 7. Last I looked, it was at 84 Metacritic, while Resident Evil 7 was 86. But to be honest with you, a 2-point difference in Metacritic, you basically scored the same. Basically, Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 7 might as well be the same. We're talking 2 points, right? I don't feel like it becomes a noteworthy gap until you're like 5 to 10 point scale, right? Once you have that kind of a difference, then it starts to be more, especially 10 points. But I would say over 5, then you're kind of like, okay, this is, a half a point difference between the two. But we're talking 2 points, 84 to 86. It's essentially the same reviews. Yeah, good. Most people seem to really enjoy it. There were a few people that really did not, which I thought was interesting. But overall, you saw a lot of 9s and then some 8s and 7s. So I would say the overall view was that Village is good. So I would say, great. Yeah, it's going to sell really well. I mean, dude, it has almost no competition right now. Yes, Returnal just came out, but Returnal's not going to sell anywhere near the level Resident Evil is. You have Mass Effect next week, which I think is going to do huge, actually. Expect Legendary Edition to do very well. But they are radically different. One's a sci-fi RPG, one's a first-person horror game. I mean, they're literally completely different genres. So I wouldn't expect much cannibalization there. Village should be huge. Yeah, huge. Huge, I think. And reviews were close enough to 7 to be fine. Great question here from Beatriz Magelis. I hope I'm saying that right. With all the problems of stock in the field of tech due to COVID in such high demand, do you think Nintendo will struggle with production of Switch Pro as well? The only thing we can say here, Beatriz, is what Nintendo themselves have said. And Nintendo's claim, now this is just their claim, is they feel very good about their production pipeline. They were specifically asked about this, and they said that they haven't ruled out shortages, but right now they feel very good with their production. So I'm going to choose to trust them in this scenario. I don't think that they're going to struggle that much, especially with the forecast they have. I feel like if Nintendo really was like, dude, we are hurting on production, that they would forecast lower than they have. They forecasted a pretty huge amount of units still, so that tells me that they feel good about it. So I think they're okay. How exactly they've, worked out their channels to where they are apparently able to cope with production better than some other tech companies, I couldn't answer that. That's going to be all internal workings there. But at the very least, it appears that they have done well in that regard. So I'm not that worried about it unless Nintendo comes out and, specifically states it, like they lower their forecast or something like that. Sweeney's saying, that's a really nice t-shirt, Benji. Yes, NASA. I love space. Okay. I love, astronomy. I listen to that stuff all the time. Okay. Like my YouTube feed is like, if you can't tell yet, I'm a man of many passions. I love astronomy. I love metal music. I love video games. I love MMA. I'm a bit of a renaissance man, I guess you could say, in terms of just I have a ton of interests and I go like hardcore deep dive on every one of them. But yes, space and astronomy and the universe would be one of my many passions. Okay, we're going to take, yep, I got 7 minutes. 7 minutes, and then we're out. Because I'm going to cut it right in an hour and a half. Right at an hour and a half. RRD, Benji thoughts, sales on Psychonauts 2. Think it'll release soon based on it being able to preload. It looks like it, right? That was a weird situation. Wasn't that yesterday? That the store just randomly had Psychonauts 2 up with like new screenshots and a preload. I would think, yeah, that might be like a surprise drop. That might be coming soon. Yeah, I would think so. You know, I would think so. I think they're going to announce a date on that pretty soon. S asking thoughts on Battlefield 6 going from a historical to a near future setting. It is a fantastic decision. Listen, my thought is that people are sick of old wars now. Honestly, I expect this year's Call of Duty, I'm just going to say it right now, I expect to do very poorly. I'm just going to be completely honest. Sledgehammer's games, Call of Duty, I don't think is going to do that well. Now, when I say isn't going to do that well, keep in mind, we're still talking Call of Duty. It's going to be a monster. But I expect this game to be down a lot from both Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War and from Modern Warfare. I'm expecting a big drop. Couple of reasons for that. First of all, it sounds like quality is not good on this one. Maybe they can turn it around. But also the rumors it's World War II again. And I think people are sick of that, to be honest with you. If you look at the recent, big first-person shooters, so many of them have been old wars. I mean, that's just the facts. You had Call of Duty World War II just a few years ago. You had Battlefield 1 just a few years ago. You have apparently another World War II Call of Duty coming up. You have Black Ops Cold War, which is more closer to near setting, but again, it's still historical. But I don't think that one was too bad. But you get what I'm getting. It's like a lot of historical wars. We haven't had big modern near future shooters much outside of Modern Warfare 2019. So that was a great choice. I am very glad that this is not a historical Battlefield game. I think that would have been a bad choice. After Battlefield 5 wasn't an old war, Battlefield 1 wasn't an old war. Like, I could just keep going on, right? We had so many World War 1 and World War 2 games within just a short time period. People are burned out. I really, truly think so. So, good choice. Very good choice to go near future. Very good choice. I would say if it was too futuristic, that might turn people off, right? Like if this was like borderline sci-fi, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it's mostly going to be fairly realistic modern day take on warfare with just like a little bit of advancements, like a little more advanced drones and that kind of thing. But it was the right choice. Yes. Whoever at EA or DICE made that decision, they made the right call. Yeah. Ubi asking, any streaming plans around E3? I hate to say this, Ubi, but I'm going to be on vacation literally that week. It just came out bad timing. So no, I am not. Dude, I would love to do live reactions to all the E3 shows. I'm literally going to be not here. I'm going to be on the beach. So I'll be watching E3 from the beach, but I'm going to be on the beach, y'all. I'm fully vaccinated, ready to go on vacation. So I'll be watching E3 from the beach, so no live stream this year. You know what, though? You can stream on YouTube from a phone, right? Maybe we'll do some post discussions from the beach house. How does that sound? If you guys are up for that, I'll do that. I'm not going to be able to do a live stream, but maybe that night we can all get on here. We can chat, say what we thought, like do an in-review each day of the different showcases. I think we can probably do that. I'll just set my phone up and we'll live stream that way. So, yeah. Let's plan on that. That's one thing I can do from the beach house. And no, it's not my beach house. I wish. We rented one out. King of the Dry Bones. Did you ever finish Xenoblade Definitive Edition? No, I need to go back to it. I definitely need to. I'm playing Pokemon Snap right now, and it's good. I love it, okay? I'm someone that grew up on Pokemon Snap. Like, I have so much nostalgia for that. But I am loving new Pokemon Snap. That is the Switch game I am currently playing. New Pokemon Snap. I couldn't get into Monster Hunter Rise. I'm going to be honest with you. I could not get into it. I tried, and I just had no success with that. Someone got a super chat in right at the end. Right at the end. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Highlander. Any surprises from Microsoft or other developers at E3? Okay, my expectation for Microsoft is we're going to see Starfield. It's sounding like that's not going to release this year now, though, which also makes it potentially unlikely we'll see it. I'm still sticking with it's going to be there, but Jason Schreier has said that that's not going to come out this year. I trust Jason. Like I've said before, regardless how you feel about Jason, he is an excellent reporter, okay? Like, the dude does his diligence. So you might not like him, but in terms of reliability, I mean, he is a true journalist. And he's saying that he doesn't think it's going to make this year, so I'm going to believe him. We know Todd Howard likes to show games the year they're going to release. So that throws a wrench into plans, but I think they need to. Here's the thing. Here's the main reason why I feel like Starfield needs to be there. Microsoft buying this Bethesda purchase was a huge deal. It generated tons of headlines. However, like, the two big announced Bethesda games right now that are coming soon are both PlayStation exclusives, right? They're Ghostwire Tokyo and they're Deathloop. Microsoft needs to show something from Bethesda for Xbox, right? You made this giant $7.5 billion purchase. You have everyone so excited. You need to go out there and you need to now show what Bethesda is going to deliver for Xbox. So I think Starfield needs to be at this show. So I would say that. I would say I'm hoping Forza Horizon 5 rumors are true because I love the Forza Horizon series. And then Halo Infinite. I think those are going to be your 3 main showcases. And in terms of surprises, I would have said Compulsion might show their new game. I didn't think that was coming out this year, but they might announce it. But Jeff Grubb is saying that it's not going to happen. Says it's too early. So I don't know. Hopefully Hellblade 2, right? Hopefully we see some Hellblade 2 stuff. And then other surprises, Sony's not going to be there, so they'll have their own show, but it'll be after E3, I think. Surprises. Man, surprises is a hard one to pick out. We shouldn't see Assassin's Creed because that's not going to be this year. They won't announce that until next year. I don't know. That's a good one. Surprises, I don't know. You know, we also don't know the level that this E3 is going to be. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I think Sony themselves is going to have some pretty interesting reveals whenever they talk. I think so, yeah. Okay, I'm at an hour and a half. Let me grab 1 or 2 more. It's hard for me to stop these streams. I love doing them, but I have to stop. Okay, Benji dropped a 5 super chat. I'm going to hit Benji's super chat, and I'm going to grab 1 more free, and then we're done. I got to call it, okay? So really quick, before I hit these last 2 questions, you know me. I try not to spam out the likes and subscribes because I feel like I'm not here to annoy you. I'm here to interact with you and not promote myself. However, since we're at the very end of this stream, if you like doing these chats, make sure you hit that like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm. It helps people find my channel. You know the drill. And then subscribe if you aren't already. Okay, we're getting pretty close to 3,000 subs. We're less than 100 away. Let's get to 3,000 subs. I would say definitely by E3, right? We can get 100 people subscribed here by E3. So subscribe if you're not yet. Like the video. Okay. So for Benji's 5 super chat and then 1 free question after that. Benji, Returnal start seems to be a bit lower than expected, it seems. If confirmed, why? The $70 price or the difficulty? Benji, I would say if Returnal, and again, this is a big if, we just don't have enough information yet, but if Returnal isn't exactly a sales success, I would not go as far as to say it has anything to do with the price tag yet. Okay, I'm saying yet. We need a few more examples. If we have several games now in a row coming up that at $70 start to underperform, that's going to be an interesting data point. And I feel like the industry is going to take a hard look at that, right? Especially, let's say, like Ratchet and Clank. I have a feeling Ratchet and Clank is going to be enormous. But if Ratchet and Clank comes out the gate and is a little underwhelming, then you start to be like, that's $70. Is that really working? But for now, I would say it's not $70 on Returnal so much. My hunch would be it's more just about the genre, okay? Roguelike, bullet hell. I mean, that's like painting yourself into a small box. You have a few breakouts in the roguelike category, right? For example, Hades that just came out. That was a huge success. But there's not like tons, okay? Then if you look at like bullet hell, that's like an even smaller genre, okay? The amount of people that like love and play bullet hell style games is very small. In fact, it's part of the reason why Housemarque was in so much financial trouble. They kept making games that reviewed well, but people just don't want to play these games, okay? There's a small audience for it, but not a huge amount. I feel like playing this game that they delivered like in a great way. I'm someone that's not into roguelikes. I'm not somebody that's into bullet hell. But I feel like they married those two together with third person very successfully. But from an outside perspective, if you're not into those two genres and you just see this as the selling point, then you're like, dude, I'm not interested. I'm not even going to buy it for $70. So I would say it has more to do with genre than anything if it's not a sales success. However, if we see multiple games underperform at this price point, then things get a little sketchy. Okay, one more free question, and I have to go. I have to go to work. One more, and then we're out. I'm going to pick one more here. Sorry. This is taking me too long. Because I gotta go. Okay, here's a good one to end on. Peter 420. Jason Schreier said that despite selling 13 million copies in 3 weeks after refunds, Cyberpunk 2077 is a flop. Benji, do you also see it as a flop sales-wise? Interesting question. Okay, so first of all, you can look at this one of two ways, okay? Is it, in general, a flop? The answer to that question is flat out going to be no, okay? The game was already profitable. It already made money. In fact, it already made a lot of money. And it sold 13 million units in 3 weeks, which is a colossal number. 99.9% of games would love to sell that much, okay? So the first way of looking at it was its launch. We're talking strictly launch. Was its launch a flop? No. And we're just talking business. We're not talking about quality. We're not talking about bugs. We're not talking about CD Projekt reaction. Strictly business. No. However, early evidence is legs are horrible. It has disappeared from nearly every single chart, except for it does occasionally still pop in on the Steam top 10 weekly. However, every single other chart, particularly consoles, it has fallen off the face of the earth. So I would say launch was a colossal success. However, early indications are legs are a flop. Yeah, it's first of all, if you're selling 13 million units that quickly, you should be obliterating things like 20 million very rapidly, right? And I think it's going to actually slow down so much, it's going to take them a long time to get there. So legs have been a bit of a disaster, it appears. Launch, massive success, just talking financially. So we'll see if the game gets another traction once they get patches out, once they get DLC out, once they get the next gen updates out. Maybe that gets a new second life to it. But the early legs from a massive start appear to be very, very bad. Okay, everyone, I gotta go. I have to go to work. I could do this chat all day, but I literally have to go. Thank you for another amazing chat. Thank you for all of the support on Twitter. Thank you for all of the support on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe to the video, stay safe. play some games. And I will see you next time, either here on YouTube next week, because we'll be back next week for another live chat like always, or I will see you on Twitter probably very, very soon. Okay, everyone, thanks. Bye. Have a good day. Bye. Bye.